Hello.
Yeah, that's your name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the
275 pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah.
You know,
He's like,
he's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's right. I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize. Remember this?
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pertinier Outdoors. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode, and thanks again for joining us. This is your host, Billy, and I'm recording this on Sunday. I don't even know what today's date is, March 22nd. So I'm pretty pumped for this episode. I am always pumped for a new episode. But this week's episode is going to be by yet another gentleman from Pennsylvania. So we're going to have Jeremy Dinsmore from Antler Up on this week. So I'm excited for that conversation. I listened back to it. It's been several weeks since we had this chat. So it was about 4 weeks ago, Jeremy and I actually had this conversation. And a lot has changed since then. So it definitely was refreshing to go back in time and have that and listen to this. And a lot of things were different 3-4 weeks ago. So as I'm sure everyone who is listening to this, because everyone in the world has been affected by this coronavirus issue, and things are certainly different. So I guess I'd start today's podcast off by just bringing that up. And these are definitely some unprecedented times, some crazy times in all of our lives, and some things that many of us never thought would happen in our wildest dreams are happening right now. And things are much different than they were last Sunday when I was preparing the podcast to drop on Monday. So we're all going through it. Everybody is. Doesn't matter what class you're in, what type of job you have. Everybody is going through some hardship right now. So I guess my message for that is, and going out to everybody who's listening here, is I hope that this conversation brings you some respite from that and some enjoyment in, getting maybe an escape for a little while from everything that's going on, and definitely reminds us all the importance of reaching out to your friends and family, touching base. Maybe this will give you a reason to reach out to somebody and check in and say hello and see how they're doing during these hard times. It's definitely going to be important for everybody to come together, keep their heads up. Could be a hell of a lot worse, and for the most part, this is affecting very few people health-wise, but it's affecting everyone in their daily lives. So definitely take this opportunity and reach out to those that you know and those that you care about, and just touch base, see what's happening, and keep that conversation line open. Also a great opportunity with all this downtime that we all have to get out and enjoy the great outdoors. So I've personally had the opportunity to get out almost on a daily basis for a few hours that I typically would not be able to, whether that be to go for a trail run or to go out and hike around, look for some sheds, do some tree stand work, et cetera, and there'll be lots of time ahead for that for many of us as this lockdown will continue, and some of us are looking at a little bit of a layoff and some downtime with work-wise. So definitely take advantage of that. Get out. If you don't have your fishing license, buy your fishing license. Trout season's coming. If you like to hike, get out and check out your local hiking trail. And I've seen a few people, making suggestions, go out and use your time to clean up some trails. I've personally, last week I was over at our local park right down the road from me, Hunter's Creek. I really enjoy that place. And I'm always in a rush. And with having a little bit extra time when I'm there, grabbing a few pieces of garbage when I walk by them. And it's amazing. It's disgusting, quite frankly, how many people just drive down the road and, literally dumping garbage bags full of garbage off on the side of the road. So that's one of the things I'm personally going to do here in these weeks that I've got some extra time is, even if it's just a quick drive down the road and take a garbage bag and pick up, 20 things and throw them in the bag and throw in the back of my truck and take it home. Do a little bit. And I think if everybody out there does the same, we can make a huge difference and in cleaning things up and just taking advantage of this downtime to do some positives. So that's a couple ideas for you there, and enjoy it. So enough about that. Shed hunting wise, I want to touch on that end of the discussion. It's been my most productive year ever at this point. I think I've got 6 sheds and a deadhead, and all but one of the sheds have been off of good mature bucks. So I'm pretty fired up about that. Nothing I've ever had experience, having this sort of success. And, number one thing I go back to, reason why, is probably time. Time has been something I seem to have had enough of this year, and that's led me to having good success there. So if you have that time, it's important to get out there and do it. And almost all the sheds I've been finding, I talked about on last week's podcast, but inherently I have always wanted to go to the thick areas where all the heavy deer trails are, and it's been interesting that the sheds I'm finding, I'm getting on used deer trails in areas where I know deer travel, but I'm finding the sheds in open areas. So whether it be right out in the middle of a field or on the field edge. And the set that I found this week was I think it's my first matching set ever. That was actually right on the other side of a little ditch, not even a big ditch, but just a little ditch that a deer would have to make a little bit of a jump across. And I want to say it might have been Clint Casper on his. He was doing some shed hunting a couple weeks ago, and he was showing a creek crossing where just giving a tip to use those sort of spots to look there. And sure enough, I've been kind of trying to focus on those areas, or when I come by a spot like that, I've been trying to look at it. And I did. That's exactly where I found that shed. I'm guessing that buck jumped across. He probably shook loose his big side, and the left side was just a small. And at first I thought that it was just a jacked up beam. But going back, and I just put a post on Instagram today that is actually a buck that we had video of over the summer. And one way or another, he broke off his main beam right at the brow tine. So the beam that I have, or the tine that I have, is actually his brow tine and not his main left beam. So pretty fired up about that. But it's hilarious how it was just right next to each other, where they fell. So food for thought. Next time you're out there shed hunting, look for those deer trails that cross in the creeks and crossing ditches, and maybe that'll be a spot that you find your next set of sheds. So little thought there. Let's see what else I wanted to. We had our first run last Thursday night. We did a little impromptu live feed on Facebook and Instagram, calling it a Pert Near Pint Night. That was, if you tuned in, was quite a shit show, and we had an absolute blast doing it. But it was super. It was a lot going on. So we had 6 of us on there. I think that was a bit much, and we didn't really have any topics we wanted to cover. It was just us, for the most part, just kind of riffing and having some fun. So we had a great time, but we want to do it again. And so keep your eyes peeled for a couple posts on Instagram this week, where I'll put up a couple polls looking for some ideas on some things that people would like us to discuss. And we'll have 3 or 4 of us on this upcoming week. We'll do it Thursday night again at 8 o'clock. We'll do another live broadcast. So stay tuned for that. We had a lot of fun there, and kind of, again, taking advantage of this downtime that we have. So I will leave it there. Enjoy the conversation I have with Jeremy. I think you will. It's a fun one. We dive into all kinds of stuff from what he's all about and what he's doing with Antler Up, and we talk quite a bit about archery equipment and choosing the right bow for you, and to discuss broadheads a little bit. Him and I are running different setups, so we chatted on that, and we talk public and private land, and then we also do look at talk about events like the Total Archery Challenge. So. Hope you enjoy. Head over to Billy and Sarah are making a. Did you have anything to say here, Bill, before we get the show started? What's that, a burp? You got anything to say? Huh? All right, that's enough. Let the show roll. Enjoy, people. Let's just go ahead and get rolling. So this week I'm joined by the guys from Antler Up, which stumbled across. I don't even know. It wasn't even that long ago, but I'm not even really sure how we connected. But somehow, it was through Big Sky Reynolds. That's right.
Yeah.
So Antler Up is on the podcast this week, and kind of hit it off with these guys. So we got Dimitri, who is not on. He's getting his hair cut because he really cares about what he looks like. And Jeremy is on because he's on time. So Jeremy Dinsmore joins us to be on the podcast this week. So what's up, Jeremy?
What's going on, Bill? Thank you for having us.
Not much. It's my pleasure. So like I just said, we kind of connected through Big Sky Reynolds, and I think we both heard of Big Sky probably through the same podcast. He was on the hunting gear podcast with Dan Johnson, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So it's probably funny because I heard him on there and I was just immediately intrigued. And I'm guessing that's similar for you. You had heard him and you were immediately intrigued, correct?
Yeah, I was immediately. I mean, if those of you that haven't had the opportunity, we both had Jay on our podcast, and it was just a matter for me. It was like I knew I was going out west for my first hunt this upcoming fall, like for 2020. And I'm like, man, like that's speaking to me just for the sole fact of, knowing that I can't just go gung-ho and like purchase everything that I would want. You know what I mean? So right. I was like, man, I'm just reaching out. Like, that's a cool idea. It's a great idea. He seems like a really nice guy. And, like kind of like you said, we hit it off when we both hit it off with Jay and Bob. So it was, they're great people. I love their what they're trying to do. And, it's, for us, man, like where we are at, I like the idea of we are just getting started, and to kind of support each other in this industry, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you guys are you're just getting off the ground with your platform as well with Antler Up. So I guess kind of I wanted to have Dimitri on because I think you guys it's a kind of a dynamic duo there, but we'll get him on when he gets there. But for you guys, I guess, who the hell are you, and what kind of got you wanting to start up Antler Up and get going what you've got going?
Man, it's kind of funny that you asked that, just because of being a school teacher. You go on interviews and they're like, they always say like, that's your first question, tell us about yourself, and you could go in a million directions, but. In the Cliff Notes version, I grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania, just in Hazleton, so just south of Scranton, so everybody knows the office, so just think like 25, 30 minutes south of Scranton.
Okay.
And it's a total different town than what I grew up with. And I grew up in a hunting family, a fishing family, and my dad was always, was like the person I looked up to want to follow him, just going back and forth in the woods and on the lake, and just doing all kinds of fishing and just outdoor stuff. And when that came, it was just like that badge of honor, just being my dad's hunting buddy. But then I grew up always playing sports. I was always outside, had a good group of town friends where we were just gone from the minute we woke up to the time we're getting like screamed at to get back inside. So whether we were, doing all kinds of stuff, playing sports, going fishing, camping, all that stuff. So my love for like the outdoors has always been there. And then as the teenage years kind of came about, you just want to do other things a little bit. I still went hunting. I still like loved the opening day stuff, going with my dad and for rifle season and archery season in particular. When I believe I was 13, when I first shot my first deer whitetail with a bow, and I was like, this is it, like that's my calling, and I just friggin' love doing that stuff. But I kind of got away from hunting in the outdoors when college hit, when I went to Penn State University, and played sports and baseball and everything, and so it was kind of like took the back burner. And man, like looking back, it's just like the outdoors is what I needed probably at that time in my life. And once life was able to slow down just that little bit after getting a job and going back. Like I ended up going back to school to get a teaching degree because I went for hospitality, so I was kind of all over the map. And
Okay.
yeah, man. So it's just like from one to the extreme to the next.
You went to school
And-
for baseball. That's what you went to school for.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Baseball, girls, and partying.
Yep, exactly. And then, once I met my wife, and things slowed down a little bit, I'm like, man, I'm gonna get back into hunting. And she's like, go for it. Like she's so supportive of everything that I've ever done, and like she's the best. And she was like, yeah, contact your dad and like go back in for rifle season that year. And so I did, and it was just like I was sitting in the woods, and I'm like, man, I remember like I don't know 6 years ago, I'm just saying to myself like, and I would be on like I want to be like, when am I leaving? You know what I mean? Like, when could I go to my friend's house type of ordeal? I'm like, now I'm like, I don't want to leave.
Right.
And it just kind of kept building. That was, I was 23, now I'm 32, and it just kept building and building and building and building for me. And once it came to, I want to say like the last 4 years is when things got a little bit more serious. And when I started following more people and seeing like there's a whole different world of hunting than what I grew up with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's a shitload of guys like you and me and girls, but I mean, our generation, all of a sudden, like that's what's flooding social media right now is guys and girls like you and me that's why I think you and I hit it off so much is that our story is just so similar.
Yeah.
Because it's just priorities. Now, were you the only sibling, or did you have?
Well, so this is a shout out to my dad, man. I mean, he is actually a kid in 4 different decades. He has
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, man. He has my older sister in the 70s, me in the 80s, my younger brother in the 90s, and then I have another sister that's a freshman at Penn State. Yeah. Yeah, in the 2000s. Yeah, dude, he's a straight killer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man.
The straight killer is right. That's fantastic.
Yeah. But no, I mean.
So you didn't have a brother or a sister that was right, a year and a half or 2 years behind you or in front of you.
Right. It was just my dad and I, and like my pap, my father's dad, he was just a big time fisherman. And what's kind of funny is when you look at the dynamic of like the love that my dad has for hunting and everything. His uncle Billy, who I never met, I mean, there's awesome stories of him growing up, but he was the individual that got my dad into whitetail hunting because my pap was a big time fisherman, small game hunter, and my uncle Billy his uncle Billy did all that stuff, but he introduced my dad to whitetail hunting, and that's what thank goodness, because it just opened me up to it. And I just remember being young and just always seeing the racks that my dad had, and just bringing home that deer, and it's just like I couldn't wait. And that's why like this past year was because it was my first buck in a while for archery, and it's just like to share that moment with him like together was just so friggin' awesome. And like it's a moment I'll never forget, and like being at 32 years old, it like made me feel like I was 12 again.
Yeah. And you're at a totally different stage at this point in your life, so I think and I've had those discussions with my dad of late too, and he's involved with us with Pert Near Outdoors, and we do some podcasts and stuff together, and it's been, if I was to take the 23-year-old me, I wouldn't see things the same way as the 32-year-old me sees it. So, and I think it's probably the same for you too, that it's like, yeah, this all means way more to me right now than it did when I was 23 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to even build on that of like why I'm doing the Antler Up thing is, it's kind of like where I'm at in my life too, where, as a PE and health teacher, I'm having this platform of teaching individuals. It's like I've stressed the importance of always wanting to learn, and that's me to the T. Like the whole Antler Up is like a place where like I just want you and I could just talk and learn and grow from each other, and like whatever. Like it's not. It's just like that, getting better as an archer, as a husband, as a father, as a friend, like whatever. Like how could we just like engage more? It's kind of like what the hunting public guys were doing, just like hey, just being real and just taking just like filling that void a little bit.
Right.
And that's like for me, like if I could get like 5 kids at school like to be interested in hunting, like I'm like sweet, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're doing what your part is, and we've had a lot of conversations on this podcast of late of what are we doing to help get the next generation involved. So
Yeah.
that's awesome that you're doing that, and that's your that's your reasoning for it, because there's a lot of people with a lot of different reasons why they're getting into this, and we've had that conversation. We actually talking about that just today. Me messaging with Danny and my brother. It's like we just each and every week, everything that we do, we just got to keep in mind, like, what are the reasons why we started this? It's not to, working with companies 100%. Like, if there's people that we align with and that we have the same beliefs and the same purposes, yeah, like, makes good sense. But at the end of the day, like, the reason why you started something is the reason why you need to keep doing it. You can't lose focus to that,
Right. That's perfectly said. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, dude. And that's I'm glad that we have met, because we share that same philosophy, and that's where I want to be like-minded individuals. And that's the one thing, like, if I'm working with whatever company A, company B, I'm hoping, like, I would not, even if it's a big name, if the individuals aren't going to be aligned and kind of whatever, I could care less if they're going to help us out or not,
Right.
And, like, for me, it's just that if we could just come together and just help support each other, and that's have fun with this. I mean, and like, another reason too for me was, I'm really big into, like, my wife will be like, oh, hey, let's check out, like, I don't know, like, this microwave. I'm constantly be like, okay, let me look at reviews. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to spend $130 on a microwave that's going to just pop out in like 5 months. And, like, I would watch videos of some people, and, like, good for them for just putting it out there, but sometimes I'm like, I couldn't get anything out of that video. So, like, I made a few, I guess, early on. Like, I'm still green, man. I'm still, like, terrible at it, and I'm looking to improve. But, I did the elk 1/3 target review for Reinhardt, like, this past summer, and that was maybe, like, the second video I did. But, like, okay, what would I want to see out of it that would make me think, like, okay, yeah, that's a good target I would want to buy.
Yeah.
So that's, like, another, like, again, like, that education aspect of making the videos. So that's kind of like, what kind of got it up and running too.
Nice. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. And it goes right with your thread of who you are and what you're up to on the personal side too. So, Dimitri, I mean, what the hell's this guy doing? I don't even.
I know.
Unbelievable.
Wait, hold on. He just.
I mean, not that the show's not going to go on, but I mean, come on, man.
He's leaving, so he'll be here.
He doesn't realize this is an international podcast, and he's just standing me up. It's like. That's awesome. So, growing up, did you guys have family property, or do you guys hunt a lot of public land, or?
So for me, I was mainly. So I was actually, I forget who I just was speaking to about this. Growing up, if it was whitetail, it was actually mainly private.
Yep.
But if it was like small game and like turkey hunting, it was public land type stuff. But for mainly whitetail, it was private. And my dad, he knew of guys that he grew up with, and they had like this property, and they still do, and they have like a club, basically, I guess you would call it, and like a bunch of members go in on this. And so to this day, that's where, like, if I say, like, in the video where I shot my buck, that was on private land. And but what's crazy about it is it's mainly pressured during rifle season, and the population that are members there, they're older guys, so they're not hunting like how I would say, like, I'm nowhere near being hardcore, dude, but like I would be considered probably hardcore to them.
In that
just,
group,
you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? But so, like, I mean, if I go in, I try to get in on like maybe a 2-3 day stretch, and out of those 2-3 days, I might only see like 3 other vehicles going places, and it's a huge property. I mean, it's about like 3,000 acres. So nice. I mean, it's like, so I may not even see them. Like, they could be down on that whole other side of the property. But it's a challenge though too, still, because since they're not pressured and they have everything that they need, it's a matter of like finding where that bed to feed area is, and hopefully you time it right and you don't spook them out, and like you're good.
And I would assume it's all timber, right? It's not.
Oh yeah.
It's not
I mean, there's zero food plots, zero like. I mean, your closest like agriculture is across a highway road. So I mean, you're also hoping like they don't get smacked, during the, like, my dad would be like, oh, I saw a nice one killed. I'm like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I hope it wasn't him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
But no, I mean, so it's tough. I mean, like, but I will say this: for me, growing up, I always enjoyed that aspect of like camaraderie with the guys, like, being that younger dude, and like you had these older guys and they've shot, like, you see it, like what they've been able to put down and stuff, and there's been some really nice deer up there throughout the years. But yeah, it's what I like though. For me, it was a great learning opportunity to try to like cut my teeth at the public land, like what I've been doing more so with Dimitri over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, man, this is like a whole new world. You know what I mean? And like similar, obviously, but there's like points where like where we could strategize. We're like, hey, these people we know set up here. Maybe they could push deer to us this way. We just got to hike in a whole different way, and it might be another mile and like a half, but still, if it puts us in a good opportunity, we'll do it.
Yeah. Are you guys seeing a lot of hunting pressure on the public land around where you guys are, or is it pretty lax in there?
It's pretty heavy. I mean, I would say now again,
All throughout archery and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like for us, like I would say certain spots, like just probably like anywhere, it goes in peaks and valleys. Like if there's a picture of someone whacked a really nice one this past fall, and it was kind of early, and then all of a sudden it was just like you just saw loads of trucks, and it was during archery season. I'm like, oh man, like this is just, that spot's blown up. Well, then here you end up finding out like it wasn't even like near where people were saying that it actually was. It was like on the whole other side of things, and just like, and it kind of just blows up everybody's hunt a little bit. But hey, that's the challenge, you know what I mean?
It certainly is, and that's, I mean, so I think it's kind of funny because I hope you don't take it that way that, I ask if you hunted private or public, because quite honestly, I mean, I'm a private guy, and I was never a public guy until I went out west and experienced the West, and I came home and I'm like, that's public over there? Like, I never even had a reason to look at it, because growing up, we have 100 acres, our neighbors have 1,000. That gives us a lot of property to hunt because they let us hunt everything. And then between friends' farms and different property, I just never had a reason to even kick around public land. So that this whole, like, our whole interest in my family and my friends hunting public land is a new thing here.
That's awesome.
But what we're finding here is that there's just, there's pressure, but, I don't want to go where I want to hunt the areas that aren't easily accessed. Like there's some state land that's not fun. And to be perfectly honest, because you're either walking straight uphill for a mile and a half, or you're going to walk down into a downhill for a mile and a half, and then you got to figure out how to get the deer out of there. So like those are the places that we're finding success and having fun chasing deer around. But there's a kind of an interesting, I think, push and pull going on right now with, are you a public guy? Are you a private guy? And it's like, it doesn't matter what you are. Do you hunt? Do you fish? That's all I care. Like do you camp? Do you hike? Like, I just want people outdoors. It doesn't matter how you're doing it, because at the end of the day, we all are going to care and be passionate about, if you're out there enjoying it, 9 times out of 10, no, 9 out of 10 is a pretty high number. Let's say 75% of people are respectful and care about the territory and the property and the waters that they're using, and, try to instill that in everybody else. But
no, I totally agree. And that's something that, for me, it's like, I don't want to be like that person where it's like, kumbaya, like, oh, let's hold hands and say like all that type of stuff. But at the same time, like you said, hunt your hunt. And, that's something where I talked with Aaron Blicey about it. And, he is coming off with the Kiefer brothers, and, they're hunting probably 97, 98, 99% of their stuff is on private land. So what? Like, it's just, hey man, if the people, I always say this, like, individuals that maybe would say something bad about that, it's like, but if they had the opportunity to hunt that private land, they would.
Oh, hell yeah.
What I mean?
And I think why it's so popular for our generation, this whole public land movement, is that how many of your friends do you know that own acreage?
Right.
Nobody. I mean, right now, the state of my life, and I don't know how I know how my dad and his brother did it when they bought the property that's our family land. They didn't have they had no money, and they were, the mothers were not working; they were staying home with the kids, and they bought that property, with the hope and the dream that they could find a way to pay for it, and they did, and so I could do the same, but I'm not, So that I think that's a big piece of it, is that our generation's not out buying up property right now. So
I'll tell you what. Yeah, and I don't know about your wife, but I know I just said how supportive she is. That's probably one where I can call and be like, "Hey, honey, I just bought a nice 40-acre chunk of land that I'm going to go hunt on." She'd be like, "Okay, tomorrow you're divorced."
Yeah, right. I just took out a second mortgage. And like, okay, here's your bags. You can live there. I hope there's a structure on it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's but I think it's a cyclical thing, because I see that our family land will someday be in my brother and I's hands, and that's just hopefully the way that all this stuff will trend and work. But it's definitely an angle and a reason why I think we're seeing such a push that we are for it. But
yeah, I'll even kind of go squirrel here a little bit, and I was watching a YouTube video today of the guys from Seek One Productions. You ever
I just started following them recently.
Yeah. And they killed some tanks down in Atlanta, but they had a friend of theirs, his family bought an abandoned golf course. And so it's like it's 250 acres, and it's just an abandoned golf course. Like, it has a clubhouse and everything. Well, the people aren't doing anything with it.
Really?
Like, they're not reopening it. So they're allowing, like, I think that family hunts as well. And, they're turning this into,
in Atlanta.
They're trying to make
shit.
It's kind of fascinating, actually. I think it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. You could have like some badass hunting lodge on a golf course right in Atlanta.
Yeah. Because they were like, so we're gonna make like fairway on hole 7 our food plot.
Yeah,
know?
right.
It's wild. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah,
it's like this coming out.
So I'm trying to think. The guy I had on the podcast that I just posted this week, Jim DiAgostino, he's not from very far away from where you're originally from.
Okay.
He's from near like Wilkes-Barre area.
Yeah.
Is where he's from, and he's the one that turned me on to the guys, to that Seek One, and I had heard of them, and I'd heard of Untamed, and started watching both of their, and those guys have got a hell of a following. I don't know how I hadn't found them on YouTube before, but but they're like entertaining as hell. And I've been on like a Western kick for a few years. Like, a lot of the people that I watch and follow are Western stuff. But like now, like getting into some, like, obviously I follow the hunting public. Most people do. Their stuff's very entertaining. But then these guys with Seek One, and then this Untamed out of West Virginia and Virginia. It's like, holy shit, like these guys are putting some content together. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I got to get into that. I actually haven't picked up one on that. I've heard of the Untamed, but I haven't like watched. So that'll be some of my next, which is good, because then now's the time when you could just start like binge watching stuff, just because you're all caught up with your other stuff.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and they're so I saw you guys had a post yesterday about you got your bow. You just got your bow set up. Is that Is that a brand new bow, or?
Yep. So that will be. Last year I had the Matthews Verdicts, and I really enjoyed the bow, and it was a great bow. But as kind of like season went on, or not, I shouldn't even say season. I should say kind of like as like summer progressed, I was like, man, I don't know, like just it doesn't like fit me. You know what I mean?
Was that a longer axle bow?
Yeah, you know what I mean. So from what I don't know the technical things right off the bat, but I would assume it's probably right around what that 31.5.
Yeah.
What that one is, and I'm 5'7". Let's just say that. And when I shot the 31.5 new VXR, and when I shot the 28, to me, it felt like a different bow.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was like when I could, like on that 28, because of my draw length and everything, like I could really, like when I'm pulled back, like I'm in it deep. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm able to like like that back wall is just like there's no giving. You know what I mean? And that's where the 31.5, it just wanted to like go on me, and I'm like, it just felt identical to what the Verdicts felt like. But I got to 28, and the guys down at Miller's Gun Shop down in Mill Hall, Bryce, he's the one that kind of works on all my stuff down there, and he's like a wizard. He's like the master Jedi down there, and he hooked me up, man, and they're good people down there. And I'm actually just got my stabilizer in today, so I'll be rocking the Stokerized stabilizer. It's their new M1. It's like a micro diameter stabilizer, and it's the SS one, so it's the longer one that kind of kicks out to the side a little bit.
Okay.
Because I like to shoot with my quiver on. And so that's where the balance on that for me is just like right now I'm like, that was dynamite. So because I talked to Sean there that kind of runs everything, and he and I had a good conversation about like setting it up, and he's just like, trust me, I think you'll be good. This is the bow I'm shooting, and I've been tinkering around with it, and he was kind of helping me out with the weights of the balance points and everything like that. And I'm like, holy cow. Like obviously he knows the stuff because that's what he builds, but I mean it was like it just felt so different, like holding that bow compared to some other ones that I've had.
Yeah. And have you always been a Matthews guy, or have you shot around and tried some different stuff?
Oh man, I've shot PSE, Hoyt, Matthews. I'm not a diehard of one particular bow. I'll tell you what, I do love the new Prime Black series that they came out with this year. I really do. I shot that at the outdoor show in PA a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
The 3 is the one I shot, and man, I'm like, my VXR was already on order, and I'm like, when's it getting here? Because I'm just like, man, that bow is pretty sweet. So I'm like,
had you shot a Prime before? Or?
Yeah, I did, and then I always said like they're just right on the cusp of like making like just a like some, I would even say a top 2 bow. I'm not going to talk down on any company; they're all great.
Yeah.
But that Prime, they've been making some huge improvements, and then this year, what they did with everything, like they just they did a really, really good job on it. My dad's actually getting the Black Series 3, and he was like, "Hey, you should maybe think about it." I'm like, "No."
You already committed, man. You're in. You can't explain that one to the wife. We just talked about buying property. You can't be buying 2 different bows in a year.
I know. He's like, so well, you should look at the 5. Maybe you'd use it for 3D. I'm like, I don't have time for 3D.
No, I'm using my archery bow or my hunting bow on 3D, for God's sakes. Yeah. So like last year, I had been running the same bow for 6 years. I had a PSE Bow Madness ready to shoot. Got it. My buddy worked at Dick's, and he got me his discount, and then just basically just sold it to me for what it cost him. And I mean, I think I had like $250, $300 into this bow, like ready to shoot, quiver, rest, everything. And it was a good little bow, but that thing's only a 28-inch axle to axle, so basically what you just bought. Right. And I'm 6'1", and my draw length is like 29.5. So I mean, what I found was it was such an aggressive string angle, and it just felt like the string was always trying to run away from me. Like there was no back wall, there was no valley. It was like rip it back, and then you're like, I mean, just constant tension on the string. So I was having some issues, and so last year I was ready to make a change, and right after the new year, and it was probably some of the best advice I've ever gotten. It was from my wife's cousin Brian. He's one of my good hunting buddies now, and he's like, dude, go to a bow shop. I had my heart set on a Hoyt. I was gonna get a Hoyt, had to have a Hoyt, and I went to a couple different bow shops, and I went to one. By his advice, was go to a bow shop that's got every brand. Don't go to a place that's just got 2 brands. Go to one that's got 5-6 brands and shoot them all. And so I went and I did that. I took a whole Saturday. I went to this bow shop, and I just like said to the guy, I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. Can I just shoot them all? He's like, yeah, man, whatever you want. So I shot everything from Bowtech to PSE to Prime, Matthews, and it came down to Matthews and Prime were the 2 that felt the best to me, and I ended up going with the Prime, but I really like that. I don't know if it was the Traversa or Traverse. It was something.
Yeah, the Traverse.
Traverse. Yeah. I really liked how that bow felt in my hand, but I just kept coming back to the Prime Synergy, and just the way that bow felt in my hand, it was like I didn't even have to. I mean, I thought about it, but then I just kept coming back to that one over and over again. And I'm really glad I did. I feel like my shooting's gotten better progressively over the last year since I bought that. Still have a long way to go, but I really want to master it. And I think you and I were talking. You're running a knock to it release is what you've been using, right?
Yeah, I've been using the knock to it, and I've actually I started shooting with the Cobra archery harvester release. It's pretty much, it looks very similar to that Carter knock to it release, the one that Dudley has going on. But what I really like about this one, it's a lot lighter, and for my hands, it actually fits really, really nice, and it has like a more, for that third finger adjustment, it kind of looks like, your typical 3-finger handheld release that you like True Ball or whatever makes. It has like that extra claw on it, and I've never shot, like the only handheld one that I've ever shot was the knock to it.
Yeah.
And I started messing around with it down at Miller's, and I'm like, wow, I really like this release. So I'll actually, and the one thing that I do like even more about it is the thumb trigger actually has adjustable pathways to it. Like the knock to it does to an extent, but this one you could like put it wherever you want.
Okay. With the knock to it, you can adjust that and kind of roll that barrel around, but you really can't do a whole lot with it. Yeah.
Right. Whereas this harvester one is awesome. So I've been really, really impressed with their stuff, and I'll be shooting probably the harvester. I'll be shooting the harvester for this upcoming year, and the guys there too are really nice. Again, kind of like the just everyday guys that love hunting. And Jake, who bought the company, I had the opportunity to speak with him at the outdoor show, and he was just a super good dude, and kind of like to support those type of individuals. And if their stuff works, it's like, hey, I can fit that in my bag for sure.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, even going back to your story about shooting all the different bows, I love that stuff, man. Like, for me, I had a PSE Stinger, ready to shoot out the door type stuff, and I got that when I was 26, I think, and I had that for a couple of years. And then for coaching baseball was my first year, or no, I'm sorry, it was my second year coaching baseball. And our baseball, I was an assistant coach at the time, and our team goes on a playoff run, and you get extra kind of stipend for playoff money. And I didn't know about that. And I was like, I got this nice chunk of change. I'm like, I'm going to go buy a flagship bow.
There you go.
And I went like balls to the wall. I walked in it, and I was like you. I was except I was opposite. I was dead red on going to buy the Halon 32 from Matthews.
Yeah.
Man, that's the bow I want. I'm like, at the time, the Hoyt Pro Defiant, I'm like, I don't even know if I really like that riser and all that type of stuff. So I go into a shop. I shoot the Halon 32. I shot the Pro Defiant. I shot a Bowtech as well, and I just kept going back to the Hoyt Pro Defiant, and I ended up getting that, and I shot that for two years, I think, 3 years, and then it was the Matthew Verdicts last year, and then it was this, obviously this upcoming year I'll have that VXR.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, you're a gear junkie, self-proclaimed, talking on your podcast, and I get all wound up about the gear, and I'm the guy, and my group always have been, they call me Cabela's or Hot Rod Slick, they call me whatever, because I've always got freaking everything tricked out. But hey, when they need something, guess where they're going? They're coming to me.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
I think that's what's fun. I think it's when you're younger, and I would be willing to bet that a lot of guys out there, their first bow or their first couple bows was a PSE, because it was just the easiest thing to get into, very cost effective. They are. I mean, that bow's, it's hanging here right in front of me. That thing's still shootable. It's a good bow. I could go out and kill deer with it. Well, I could go out and shoot at deer with it, because I wasn't very good with that bow, but like it's a good bow. It's not the bow's fault. It was my fault. And but I was kind of excited, and now I'm like thinking about PSE again. Not that I want to jump, but I think it's awesome what's going on with Dudley. I don't know if you follow him closely or not, but when he announced going to PSE and the stuff, listen to his last podcast he had with some of the guys from PSE, and like listen to what they're planning on doing. Like, it's just really cool, and I think it's great for the community of archery, what they're doing, and that somebody like him is finally getting the opportunity to, do what he wants to do to help grow the community. I think it's awesome. I mean,
100%. I mean, he's putting out so much free education that
ridiculous.
It's unbelievable.
Have you done the school knock? Did you follow that last year?
I did last year, and it helped me out so much, and that's something where for me, now that thank goodness my bow's finally here, I'm like, good, it's going to help me out when we get up to Total Archery Challenge coming up at the end of May, just because even when I was shooting it the other night when we got the build, I said to Bryce, I'm like, dude, I haven't shot since before Christmas because that's when I got rid of my bow.
Right.
So I'm like, I have not shot, and the first one, I just felt like I was so scared. You know what I mean? I'm like, don't screw up. But yeah. But then it's after a while, I got my shot back, and he's just, Bryce kind of talked me through a little thing, and it was like, boom. Then once we made some adjustments on the black gold sight, it just was like, boom, right there in the bullseye. But yeah, and that's, I mean, I'm a big proponent of Dudley. I appreciate all that he does, and I think a lot of people that, I get it. Some people, it's not their cup of tea, and some of their stuff's not my cup of tea, so it is what it is. But I really do appreciate the free education he puts out there. In the long run, he just wants it to do good for archery, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, 100%. And you're gonna hopefully get a chance to meet him this year at TAC.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
I'm
bummed I'm not gonna make it this year, but.
Well, and here's another reason why I'm bummed. Well, obviously you have your wife and you guys are expecting that around that time or right before that. I'm really, really excited because we just finalized a deal with Total Archery Challenge where we'll actually be sponsoring a target on the knock-on course at Seven Springs.
No shit.
Yeah, so we're actually going to be doing some giveaways every single day. So we have, whether it's some of our partners, whether it's us giving away some hats, and hopefully we'll have some new T-shirts by that point in time. But we just really want to just say thank you to those of the individuals that have been supporting us, and just maybe we can meet some new friends and just have a great opportunity. Just and for honest to goodness, for me, it was one of those things where Dudley did so much for me. I'd not even ever meeting him and just getting the shot sequence, just getting like I said, for my dad was that big person for me, and he lives 2 hours away. So it was how could I teach myself this and get better? And you go on Knock on TV before it blew up the last, so 4 years ago when he was posting the School of Knock a little bit through his video series. I follow that, and man, that helped me out so much. And so my thing was man, I want that opportunity where if we could sponsor or do something on his course, I would just love that, and we had the opportunity to do it.
That's awesome. How the hell did you work that out?
I don't know, man. It's just
just bombing people's Instagram boxes or what?
Yeah, no, it's just what's funny is I'm not a shy individual, I guess you could say.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, I have no problem with getting told no or shut the hell up and then go at him again for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I just contacted Sean, and it's just we have to pay for and all that stuff, but I don't care. It's just one of those things where it's kind of like a thank you, just to be honored to be a part of that, and
Absolutely.
and to go back, you and I talked about that first conversation with Total Archery Challenge. That's what kind of started you guys to go into this, and that's what started for me. It was kind of talking to the right people, and Sam Sahol, and just other random people, even if other individuals if it was you, I just had no social media aspect of life, but just kind of just would say, yeah, man, go do it, have fun. If it's what you want to do, do it. And I'm like, all right, let's go it. Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Try.
Well, that's, all the, you mentioned Sam. Sam was incredibly supportive, but that Jim DiAgostino I just had in the podcast that I posted this week, Jim, we just ran into him literally 20 minutes after he got there. Him and his buddy were walking by our hotel room, and we're out there drinking beer, working on our bows. And next thing you know, we're just hanging out, we've been friends forever, and met some other guys that night. So were you guys staying there at the resort last year?
Well, what's funny is last year it was just myself and my wife.
Yeah.
We just went, her and I, and I told her, I said, hey, because I went down Saturday morning. I had, I think, a 10 o'clock knock time or something, and she made a spa time, and I just went and shot the local course, and just to kind of as like a warm up course until I shot some more later, either that day or Sunday. So I get up there, and there was an individual that was kind of like just by himself as well. And I said, you want to shoot together? He's like, yeah, man, I'll shoot with you. I'm like, all right, cool. So it was this Mike from Delaware, good guy, and we're going on like shot maybe 6, I want to say, and these 2 other individuals caught up to us. It was a father-son tandem, and both of their names was Mike as well. So it's like Jeremy and 3 Mikes.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to remember who the hell's who. And so we were shooting. We had a great time. And the father-son tandem, the younger Mike, he and I really hit it off. Like we just kind of had the same. Like we're both Yankee fans. We're both, just kind of had like cut from the same cloth, like how you and I are in a sense. And we just always stayed in contact over that summer. And once I kind of went all in on this whole Antler Up thing, and started a website and everything like that, I just said, hey man, like I can't do this alone. And I would love to just bring people on that, share that same philosophy and core values. And I said, would you want to do it? And he was just so stoked about it. And I'm like, awesome, man. So it's like, so obviously Dimitri, who's still not here yet. I don't know if he has.
Is he okay? Has he been killed? Did the hairdresser slip around his ears or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so funny. Maybe he did go home. I don't know. We'll see. If we got to go commando unite, I'll be all right.
We're quite all right.
Yeah. But we so Mike was all on board with it, and obviously Dimitri was, and that's so again, it's just like going back to the tack thing. It's just kind of like that's where what started us, and I'm like, hey, when I talked to them, I'm like, this whole Antler Up would not be if it weren't for tack. In a sense, that really pushed me over to the edge. And I'm like, so if I could be a part of it by sponsoring a target and giving away some stuff, then sure, let's do it.
That's awesome, man. It's good shit. That's pretty cool that you're having the opportunity to do that. I'm jealous. I'm super jealous.
Yeah, I'm excited. Now we'll have some America's Best Bowstrings to give away, and we'll have some stuff from Scott and Tamara from 1824 Funk. Some scent stuff to give away, and maybe some things from Miller's and Sever Broadheads. We'll be giving away some stuff from them, and so it'll be some cool stuff. So hopefully people want to participate and be involved, and just want to just like a meet and greet. And I don't know how we're going to do a giveaway. We might just say, hey, take a picture and show us your shots on the target. I don't know. And just
show us. I didn't know you were going with there. Show us your butt.
show us your goodies. Yeah, man. But no, so if you have an idea out there, if you're listening, shoot us a DM. That we could come up with something.
Well, I think you got to do some kind of a trick shot. Not a trick shot, but like they gotta. Even if there's money in it that you're going to donate back to something too, that'd be kind of cool. If people, $2 or something, throw it in there, and if you hit this, you get a pair of broadheads or something. But that's cool. That's fun to think about. Get involved and do that. Speaking
of broadheads, what broadheads do you shoot?
I'm running the Iron Wills. I've been using them for a couple of years now, and they're just devastating. I can't believe how I am in love with my setup right now. And what's kind of fun about our group of guys is that everybody's running something different. Like everybody has their preference. Nobody has the same bow as me. Nobody has the same arrows as me. Nobody has the same broadheads, guns. Like we're all over the freaking place.
That's awesome.
Which is good because I feel like there's so much to talk about, but I think it's cool to have like a diversity of what we're using on our end because we just want to give just our honest opinion on what we're using. But so far, I've shot 4 deer with the Iron Will, and they're zipping through them so fast that literally the deer have no idea what's going on. And I'm not kidding. Like the first doe I shot, not this year but the year before, she was like 5 yards, and I was about 20 foot up in the tree, so the angle was super aggressive. She knew she was hit because I came right down on top of her shoulder and it came right out the bottom of the brisket, and she was in bad shape. So she knew she was hit. But both the does I shot this year and the buck I shot last year, the arrows went through them so fast that the two does this year, they were both almost identical angles and distance, and they both were one lung shots. And the deer, I could not believe. I mean, you hear so many stories about one lung shots, the deer just going forever. I'm telling you, dude, both these deer, they took about 10 steps, and then they looked around. They didn't know what was going on, and they both just tipped over. And
that's crazy.
The second doe, she tipped over, and I thought she was done. She was kind of down in like a little. She fell down on the side of the hill, kind of just over the crest from me. And standing up in my stand, I could look down. I could see her with my binoculars, the top of her back. I thought she was done. She ended up getting up and just went on a death run down the hill and actually died like literally at the base of my brother's tree stand that he was planning on hunting later that day. He was less than thrilled with me, but that, both of those does, they both just the arrows threw them so fast. That cut with that broadhead being as sharp as it is was so lethal that they just bled out like immediately. It was just incredible, especially one lung. Right. So I'm sold on those broadheads just solely out of the sharpness and the durability. Blood trails are not that great because it's a pretty small cutting diameter broadhead, but you're just blowing through whatever you're hitting. It's incredible. And I'm shooting a day 6 arrow, so it's pretty heavy. I think my total arrow weight's like 530, 538 somewhere. I'm not 540. I'm just under 540. But that it's a freaking heavy ass arrow, and you put that sharp broadhead on the front of it, and it just powers through anything.
That's a 22 coming at him.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
that's sweet.
You've been using the Sever for a couple years now, right?
Yeah. I'm year 2 on the Sever, and I actually got Dimitri to get on those this year, just to try them out. Like, it wasn't like he was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot, and he was actually the first one this year to put him down, and his buck, he was showing me pictures. I'm like, holy gosh! And then the night that we actually came home, because we went and picked up my puppy at the time, so we were driving in, and we that night I went up to see it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I cannot wait to fling one at one. And then a couple weeks later is when I shot mine, and like I said in the video, my dad was just like, holy cow, like this is like a war zone, bloodbath up the trail. And I'm like, yeah, they're great heads. And that's what's awesome anymore is, man, we're so lucky as bow hunters just to have so many great like tools at our disposal. It's just, and depending on what, like how you said, like your setup, like running at like just shy of 540 and hammering, like no wonder why they don't feel it, just because you're blowing right through them, dude. Like that's awesome,
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And for me, was it 3 years ago? It was the first day of archery here in PA. I was using the Muzzy hybrid, like that HB they came out with, and I was in a new area, and I was kind of like, I had a trail camera stolen like that opening day. I actually had some nice bucks on camera, like coming in like at a decent time, like shooting light. I'm like, holy cow, like I can maybe get lucky. First time ever I felt like that. Obviously, it's hunting, but I get up in the stand, or beforehand I would go to check my camera just to pull it, and I'm like, it's not there. I was like, come on, you gotta be kidding me. So I still climb up around that area, and I get down, and I went back that afternoon, and it was about 2 hours before its last shooting light, and a big doe came down, and she was broadside about 22 yards, and you just hear the pop of the lungs go, and she just kind of like gave like one little trot, like what the heck was that type of ordeal, like it just smoked her, went right through her, and she then like turned to look up the ridge, and as soon as she did that, it was just like she had a hose coming out that other side, and then she took off. I was like, holy cow, like she didn't know, and then she finally was like, okay. She took off, man. She bled like crazy. She only went about they're tough animals, and she still ran like 90 yards embedded, and that's, later on I just backed out, but I just saw the whole thing like with Sever with the the pivot on that blade. I just really like that kind of technology. And then the first time I shot it in the practice mode, that's where I legit did no tuning. It just shot right where it needed, like where I was aiming, and I was just blown away by that. I'm like, okay, I'm still, let's see until we put it through an animal, and once I did it, it just was game over.
So I don't know much about Sever. I mean, I've seen the people that shoot them, and I've heard about them, but I've never physically seen one in action. Yeah. They don't have a collar or anything, correct? It's a little bit different of a design.
Yeah, it's an O-ring. They have a ring, but man, it's crazy because you always used to hear like horror stories of ring, like just the bands and all that stuff. But I mean, there was times where I would look up and I just maybe be like in my quiver, and I would just be pushing because of walking or whatever, and I would see the blade kicking out just a little bit, but it, like when I would push it down or away, I would inspect it and I'm like, it's still perfectly fine. Yeah. Like there was no little slit in it or nothing. And so they're actually really, those O-rings are really durable. And so I didn't have any issues with that. And actually when I shot my buck, I couldn't find the tip actually. Just it broke off like as soon as it hit him, it came out the other side, and it like just where it was. We didn't look that long for that other part of the arrow, but there was another, or was it the doe that Dimitri shot? I think it was, and the blade was perfectly fine. Like you could just replace the blades, and the ferrule was perfect and still sharp and ridiculous. So
let me give you this sale pitch on the iron wills. So the buck I shot 2 years ago with my bow, this deer I was on a real steep point, and the deer he was 10 yards, but he's eye level because he's above me on the side hill. So he's coming right straight across the hill, and he stops broadside, and I shoot him right behind the shoulder, and that arrow blows through and buried in the side hill, and that the tip. I guess I don't know if you call it the ferrule, but the tip on the the ferrule, but the tip on the
single blade,
on the blade was knurled over, and they say it's a lifetime warranty. So I after the season was over, I kept that broadhead and I used it as a target arrow or a third shot follow up, whatever. And so in the off season between last year and this year, I take pictures. I reach out to them. I said, hey, I have this blade that's bent, wondering if this is covered under warranty or not. And they're like, yeah, no problem. Give us your address. And within a week, I had a brand new. So the ferrule, the way it works, you unscrew. There's like a hex screw or whatever in the ferrule. You unscrew that, you just pull the blade right out, and the bleeder is separate. The bleeders are fine, and you just slide that new blade right in, and you put the screw back in. So it's like I spent $100 on 3 broadheads, but I've shot 4 deer, and the only one that had any damage to it, I got covered under warranty, and they sent me a replacement. So it's like I have a real hard time, but to not want to run them. But I was always using the NAP kill zones is what I used before. I never used the Rage just because I wanted to be different than my brother. My brother's been a Rage guy forever. And and the kill zones that you could tell, and I started hearing on some podcasts and stuff that they'd changed designs and they seemed a little bit just chintzy, So I kind of got away from them and I went that way. But I'm not going to carry 6 iron will broadheads in my quiver. So like I have 3 iron wills and 3 of the kill zones just because I needed 3 broadheads and I had them. But in the Severs, it sounds like on the expandable market they're a pretty damn good broadhead, and anybody who anybody that's using them typically is raving about them. So I don't know, might throw 3 of them in my quiver and give them a shot.
Yeah, they're and again, like great people. Like I met them last year at the outdoor show, and they were just awesome. And they're not pushy by any means. Just really good dudes. And I would say it's an updated of the Randy Ulmer head. I don't know if you ever listened to. He was on Dudley a couple times, and Dudley has him on a lot, just in years. And they talked about like how that is the replica, like the new Randy Ulmer head. So it's a pretty cool experience with that.
Yeah. So where is he? Where is this guy?
I
He's
think
not
he
coming.
Yeah, I think he's not coming.
I bet you the haircut didn't go well, and he doesn't look good, so he didn't want to be on camera.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to dig into with you two, but so I guess you can speak for him. So what's the connection between you two?
Yeah, so my wife, her parents, well, her mom, I shouldn't say parents, her mom is cousins with his dad.
Okay.
So it's just like kind of that close-knit family, and they're huge into hunting. I mean, so they're up the road about from my house 10 minutes, I would say, and again, so this is where like I've kind of learned the whole public land hunting aspect of things, and it's just opened up my eyes, and I think it's really cool, and like I love just that aspect of things now. But they have his dad, where he grew up hunting, has about I think 30 acres just around his house, but then it's back up against public land.
Nice.
So they've always hunted down there his whole life, and still do to this day, and they just have fun with it and try different things, but they also go out all around the public land area here in central PA. So like they'll say, this spot, I'm like, no, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so they're helping me out with that side of things. But I mean, his whole story is basically you want to talk about growing up hunting, that's Dimitri. I mean, loves it. And you walk into his parents' house, as soon as you walk up the steps, you turn the corner and there's a big bear, just a gigantic full mount bear standing there that just greets you. So it's pretty cool.
Why are you heckling me, Sarah? Go away. Go upstairs. Come on. This is my time. Stop. I don't know what she's doing. She's freaking. Yeah. You think you're real funny, don't you? Yeah. You would think, your wife sounds wonderful. She supports you. She just thinks that I'm a joke. And, I sit in my basement and record podcasts, It's real funny.
Like you're living back at like in your parents' basement.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because my uncle is like totally against this whole podcasting thing. He thinks it's stupid. And he's like, the only people doing podcasts are 30-year-old men living in their mother's basement. And here I am. I did have my office upstairs, but I had to move it to the basement because of baby number 2 coming, and I was told that the back room would be a playroom, but it's the middle of freaking winter and it's cold out there, so we're not using that room. So I could still be in my office, but I'm not burnt on that at all.
Hey man, you, at least you have a space, because I'm still doing it in the dining room until my basement is like, it's finished, but I would say I don't know if I have great service down there, even though it's just a very small house, but like I don't have the best service down there, and I want to put like new floor down and like that, what is it, the fake hardwood floor, the laminate floor that looks like hardwood floor. But once I do that, I might get like a nice desk and do some cool stuff, and maybe that'll be like the area, because like right now it's like split. I have my little man cave spot, and then my daughter has like all her like a one-stop shop little play thing and like all kinds of stuff down there. So it's like I'm like hopefully in a couple weeks my buddy Justin will have my mount done. So once I throw that up there, I know Nora won't want to go down there. So
right, yeah.
it'll be like
spook her out.
Spook her out a little bit. So
you met Dimitri through your wife's family then.
Yep.
And
yep. So I've known Dimitri now, for 11 years, and he played football at Maryland, and then he transferred to Edinburgh. I always can't say that school correctly, so sorry.
It's Edinburgh, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's why I married an English teacher to help me.
There you go. She can correct you.
Yeah, she called. Trust me, she loves doing it. And so he transferred there, and now he's a PT, physical therapist, and I would say the last 3 years is when they just invited me. They're like, hey, do you want to come hunt? Because I was always going home, like constantly just to hunt. And they're like, why doing that? I'm like, well, it's just what I'm used to, and they're like, no, stay home this weekend. We'll take you hunting. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, holy God, this is awesome. Like just the camaraderie of everything, and it was during rifle season. And then so this would be 2 years ago, and they're like, yeah, let's like for bow season here, so we would go up and shoot our bows, and like after church on Sunday or whatever, and hang out. And So we would just kind of show me the ropes, I guess, a little bit of just like this whole new world of the hunting aspect of it. And we'd go walk around different public land spots and just show me a couple things. And, you know, it's just a really cool thing just to see because of the dynamic of Dimitri has with his dad, and he's still doing it like that. And but it's just neat because we're in the same boat because they're awesome. Our dads are awesome, but we're trying to branch out and find our own niche.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so it's neat that Dimitri and I kind of have that same philosophy, and just because he's done it for a long time, and so I'm like at just right behind him, learning that aspect of things, and then he's behind me, like trying to do certain other aspects of things. So it's really cool the dynamic that we have, and he's very knowledgeable when it comes to just he'll send me pins at work, and he's just like, hey, we got to check this spot out. I'm like, awesome. Like, I'm getting to show me
constantly thinking about it.
Yeah, so it's awesome.
Just finding a good hunting buddy is it's if you're somebody that's getting into it and you don't have that person, I've talked a lot about that on this show, that trying to network and try to find that person that can be your hunting buddy, because if it wasn't for that camaraderie side of things, I'd have a really hard time getting fired up for every weekend, for season. I'd probably still, I don't know, I can't even say, because to me it's so much of it. The camaraderie piece is, I talk to my friends more during those 3 months out of the year than I talk to them the whole rest of the year, and it's it brings everybody together. But
and that's awesome, because like even for us, like I said, we're 10 minutes up the road, and if we go, and that's where the public land is too, around that area, so like I got to go that way, and I'd text him the night before or whatever. I'm like, okay, what time you want me at the house? If he's like 4, whatever, it's like I get up at 3 and I'm like, I'm giddy, you know what I mean, because we'll roll up, and I'm like you said, Mr. Cabela's, and I'm trying to unpack everything that I need to roll in there with all my camera gear and all that stuff. So, but it's fun, man. And that's, like you said, I appreciate him so much. And it's a great, his house is actually, he built a house across the street from his parents' house where he grew up basically. And he has a nice little big yard. So we'll go behind his house and fling some arrows and just have some fun and, all that type of stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's going to be, you mentioned Sundays. That's going to be a nice little change for you guys this year to have a couple.
Yeah.
How's that going to work in your area? Is it, because I don't fully understand, is it going to be just one Sunday in each season? Is that how I understand it?
Yeah, yeah, basically. So one weekend in archery, one weekend during bear season, and one weekend during rifle season.
Okay.
So off the top of my head, I forget the dates, but I know it's the second week during in November for archery, because I was hoping that it was going to be the 8th again, just because of that just seemed a lot this past year. That's the day I shot my buck, and that's Sunday this year.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I would love for it to be that time, because that was like prime time. But yeah, so I think we're going in the right direction finally, because I just remember 2 years ago it just seemed like every Saturday was just downpouring, like unhuntable weather, and then Sunday would just be the perfect storm for you to get out and probably kill something and see something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just can't imagine. And I'm excited for you guys, and of course, we come down to PA for a long weekend every year. So for us, I don't know if it'll work this year, but because I don't know what the date is, it doesn't really matter. But in the future, the potential for us to be able to go down there and hunt a full weekend, and maybe take one less day of work off, that might make it easier on guys. And so, yeah, it's cool. I think it's, it's important that happens down there. Your average hunter, if you can only get out, if you're a gun hunter and you can only get out 2 days a year, are you really going to go through all that? To get your license and buy weapons and gear and everything else, it's definitely necessary. I'm excited to see that they're doing it. So, and it's been driven by the people too, which is kind of cool,
Yeah. Yeah. And for someone like myself as a teacher, it's so hard for me to just take days off.
You can't, so, right? Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing that we looked into for our upcoming hunt out west. We're going to go to Utah. We might go the the beauty is I won't be coaching football next year, so I could use some personal time for that type of stuff. But if we go early and hopefully draw that mule deer tag, we might try to go like that August 15th. So like go right when they unpressured in a sense and get out there super, super early. And if I only need to take 3 days and they're in service days, so I don't even have to worry about kids or all that type of stuff. So it's like I'll be in the clear of that. But like if you, like you were saying, for during maybe October hunt for myself, like I'm going to go out to Ohio, and if I only have to take off Friday, and I could, at least I'll have 3 days of hunting and not just 2. You know what I mean? Like it'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday type of work.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
yeah, it's big. It's a big deal, and especially being a parent. I mean, that's another angle too. I mean, it's
huge.
You still don't. I mean, that's a whole other angle. You don't have a ton of time, and you and I could talk about that angle a little bit too. But I don't feel like getting into kids right now.
Yeah.
Actually, how old's your daughter?
6. She'll be 6 here in like 6 days. Yeah.
So she's fending for herself.
Yeah. Yeah. Kinda. Yeah.
When she wants to.
Yeah. Today was. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just say our he's figuring out the whole fake crying thing. I don't know where he got that from, but he started doing that last weekend, and he's like faking the crying. Then he looks up to see if you're looking or not, and it's like, what are you? And he's smiling. It's like, oh my God. I'm pretty sure it's those curse girls at daycare taught him that, but
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that's all right. He'll get what he wants then, right?
He will. I don't know. I'll tell you what. I'm proud of my wife because she's right from day one. I mean, she's been pretty hard.
That's awesome.
Letting him cry in the crib, and just letting him be. And God bless her, because it's not easy to do. But we kind of did it from day one, and it's so we don't encourage it, and he seems to stop. So
good for you guys.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, well, we today was for what is it, Dr. Seuss week, I think, and today was wear a hat day, and where Shea Butler made our hats that we sell, and he saw a cool, just one of the videos that I had of Nora, and he's like, I'm gonna send you something just for her, and I was like, dude, you don't have to. He's like, no, I want to, and I said, okay, thank you, and he sent Nora this like baby blue, just awesome, like same hat that we have with the leather patch, but it's in blue for her. And today she was so excited that this week she could wear a hat during school, and she's like, I'm gonna wear my Antler Up hat. And I said, well, what are you gonna tell people when they ask you like, what's your hat? And she goes, I'm gonna say it's Antler Up, and it's my daddy's archery.
Nice.
Nice. I'm like, that's it, that's all I gotta say.
That's awesome.
So
do you think does she enjoy being out in the outdoors with you? Or
yeah, she does, and she loves going camping. Like since my wife is also a teacher, during the summer we try to camp as much as we possibly can, and I'll take her fishing, and we go shed hunting, aka walk, go hiking, and my goal is to find a shed this scouting season, and just so I could like take her out and like plan it and like somewhere where I know, like kind of make her find it. That's like my ultimate goal this upcoming season. But it's fascinating because, and I mean, just being a father, it's just watching your kids grow and be interested in like things that you are. It melts your heart. I just love like constant, like even she's like, Daddy, take a. Like she has no idea that I'm like I love her because she thinks I'm probably some like superstar, And,
you are.
Yeah, to her, and that's all that matters. And she's like, Daddy, make a video, and she'll be like, Antler Up at the end, catch you on the trail, and I'm just like,
right.
It's just awesome.
Oh,
she's sweet.
It is, and that's, I don't know, everything changes when you're a father, and that I just can't get enough being around the kids. I love my wife's cousin Dallas, his 2 girls. Well, he's got 3 girls. The two of the girls are a little bit older, and Emma and Ava. I'll give them a shout out because they'll probably listen to this. They'll get all excited. Yeah. But they wanted to be on the podcast, and Dallas and I were doing a conversation about our upcoming PA hunt back in December, and the girls were like, they were right there and they wanted to talk and everything, and as soon as you gave them the floor, oh my God, they lit up. And it was so much fun. I was like, this is like, and again, it like brings you back to like remembering why you're doing this. It's like it's to get however you can at this day and age, get the kids excited about being part of something so that it engages them with it, you know. And if it's creating some video and putting it on your Instagram page with them, or making a Facebook post, or recording a podcast and letting them be on it, it's like, who cares? Like, it's encouraging them to be part of it, you know.
Exactly. Well, that's what even like Dimitri's little boy, he's 7 months old, or 7 or 9 months old, and I'm actually his godfather. So you know, I have that honor. In this past Christmas, for Christmas, I got him a deer head like stuffy, but it's a like one you can mount. Like it's like a mount.
I think I was creeping on. I just really wanted to meet Dimitri tonight. I'm really upset about this. Because I sent him a mess or a follow request on Instagram today, and then he responded, whatever. And so I was creeping on him, and I saw that little stuffed deer head in the baby room.
I got him that. Yeah, I saw that, and I'm like, dude, I gotta get him that. That's just awesome. But I mean, like, so I know he's super pumped, and like he's mentioned it on a couple of our podcasts too, and just how much, like, even how he hunts now and the way he thinks about it, it's changed him just being a father. And I mean, this is his first hunting season with that. I'm just like, man, just wait till, you know, a couple more times and a couple more seasons get under his belt.
Yeah, it does. And once they get to the point where they're old enough to like point at the deer and say it's a deer, and you know, when I shot those, I had that night that I shot the 3 deer, and sitting on the tailgate with Billy, and I didn't know how he was going to take it. You know, like earlier this season, this past hunting season, one of the guys, John, shot a beautiful 10-pointer, and so I took Billy over. I was all excited to take him over to the shop. We got a walk-in cooler that we hang the deer in before we cut them.
Yeah.
So I was all excited to take Billy in there, and I walked in with him in my arms into the cooler, and I don't know, you know, who knows? It could have been because it's a dark, cool space, you know, enclosed. I don't know, but he did not like it. Like, he backed out. He started, you know, crying, and I'm like, oh Jesus! I'm like, maybe it was too soon. You know, he's like a year and 4 months, and I'm like showing him dead deer in a cooler. You know, I'm like, I don't know. That's what I would want to do when I was, I don't know. But so then you fast forward a month and a half later, and you know, I take him out to the tailgate of my truck, and he's pointing and squealing, and he's like, deer. You know, he says doe, and I'm like, no, it's a buck, Bill. It's got horns on its head, but he knows what he's trying to say, and it's just like, it just motivates you in a different way. Like, I don't know, just for me, it motivated me to just keep pulling the trigger and just fill the freezer is what it motivated me to do.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, like we haven't even gotten into like any Western stuff, and that's where I can't wait to pick your brain about that one day. I mean, that will be a whole different podcast. But like, for me, I think one of the fun aspects of like lighting that fire under me, I guess you could say, of like wanting to go out there. I was watching like probably the Hush guys on YouTube, and Nora, this was, you know, a couple of years ago when she was still like little. And she might have been 3 at the time, and she's sitting there, and I just hear squeal. And I'm like, the heck is that? I come in, and she's watching the elk, and she's mimicking like an elk call. And I'm like, that is the greatest thing. So I'm like, Nora, do an elk call. And like, she would do the squeal, and she doesn't do it now, but like back then, it was like I was such a proud dad.
Oh yeah, fired right up about it.
I called my dad. I'm like, Papa. I'm like, tell Papa what sound does an elk make? And she does it. And he's like, that's great, you know. So
yeah. So. Wait till do you have your bugle tube yet?
No, not yet. Well, that's what we were laughing about, because I said to Tim, I'm like, when he was on that day, and he actually was up this like last weekend. He brought some elk meat, and we had some burgers and everything. And I said, so now you see the neighborhood I live in. I said, how annoyed are they going to be later when I just start doing some bugles? And he's like, yeah, have fun with that one. So.
I practiced a lot, and I would do it here at the house, and I'd do it in the vehicle, and Billy would hear me doing it and see me doing it, my son, and he had to get the bugle tube, and he'd, you know, basically yell into it. And it's hilarious that you said your daughter did that, because Billy does the same thing. We'll be watching TV, and they'll be, you know, elk will be watching Born and Raised or whoever, and there's elk bugling, and he's doing it right back, and it's just like, that's cool. We're watching some nature thing tonight on Netflix, and it's not even an elk, but there's an animal making some kind of a noise, and it was a buffalo, and I don't know why, but he's like making the elk noise. I'm like, okay, like that's cool. Maybe
That's
it'll
awesome.
work, but yeah,
being a dad's really cool. I love it, man.
it is.
I absolutely love it.
Well, we're at an hour and 20 minutes.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was pretty
I'm
easy
flying.
to crush through that time. But I guess anything. So we're definitely going to get on and do something again. Whether it's we'll definitely get you on here again. But I'm very interested to continue following along with you and see how your preparation for your Western trip goes,
Likewise,
and
man.
be happy to jump on your show sometime and shoot the shit about whatever else. Just kind of a continuation of this conversation, really, and maybe Dimitri will show up next time. Actually know his role.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I likewise, man. I appreciate it, and it's just I love your message. I love that we share the same stuff, man, and that's what it's about. It's just how can we connect with the other like-minded individuals in this community, and just branch out and have fun and share the message of the outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. So give a plug for your platforms, where you're at, what you're posting, and what you're doing.
So we just we're starting the Antler Up podcast, and that's on all platforms, and so you can check that out over at Antler_up_outdoors. That's our Instagram handle. That's the one that I run, and so I have a link in there to our podcast, and then you can antlerupoutdoors.com, and that brings you to everything. That's our store for our hats, our merch, and then we have the links to our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook page, all that type of stuff.
Nice. Yeah, definitely check it out. You guys I'll give you a lot of credit. You are doing some good stuff in a short period of time. And
thank you, man.
It's only been a couple months, I feel like, and you're already putting out some really good content and getting some good interaction and put out some good stuff on Instagram. So you're a tough man to follow, but we're pert near going to try to keep up with you. So,
hey man, please do. And then you and I already talked, and I'm excited to do a swap hunt, for next season. Whether we come up and you guys still want to come down, absolutely. And you got a open door down here to stay at, man. So
awesome. I appreciate that offer, and we will try to put something together for sure.
Awesome, dude. Well, thank you for having me. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeremy. Take it easy, buddy.
You too, bud.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Hey, Bill. Did you have a fun time hiking today?
Yes.
Did you? Did we see any deer?
Yes.
Did we see deer? Did we go down by the water? Did we go down by the water?
Yes.
Did we see any fish?
Yes.
Did we catch any fish? We didn't catch any? Is there chickens out there? Are there any chickens out there? Bill, are there any chickens out there? Hey, Billy. Oh, no, don't put your boots on that. Oh. Hey, what noise does an elk make? What noise does an elk make?
No.
What noise does a deer make?
Yeah. How?
Can you say elk?
Ooh.
There you go. Good job. What sound does a turkey make? What sound does a turkey make? Bill. What sound does a turkey make? What sound does a bear make?
Go.
What does a bear say?
Wow.
Nailed it. What about an elk?
Ooh.
That was really good.